All right, good morning. My name is Kyle Ridgway, for those that you don't know me. I'm based out of Denver, Colorado. I'm a physical therapist, board certified in cardiovascular and pulmonary physical therapy, and passionate about everything really related to physical therapy, healthcare, critical thinking, communication, scientific literacy, cognitive biases, you name it. Also do enjoy a good cup of coffee, biking, skiing, all that good stuff. And I recently came back from APTA CSM, and that's a place where actually some great conversations happen. And I was talking at the end of the conference with Sandy Hilton and Sarah Hagg, Karen Litzy, a few other folks. And you know what happened is Sandy Hilton gave me the idea. She said, you should do coffee with Kyle every single morning. 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and just rant about something. Just talk about something, discuss something, almost like an intellectual shot of espresso. Not enough to sustain you for the day, of course, but enough to give you a little bit of energy. And so with that recommendation, I decided to start. And really, what I want it to be is just like you would have a conversation at a coffee shop. Pretty low key, grab a cup of coffee, which I have here. Someone asked me what I am drinking as far as coffee. I've got the $1.35 cafeteria special, a little bit of vanilla creamer. And I wanted to wrap up CSM to start with. So instead of giving content from CSM, I wanted to give kind of some of my takeaways. I've been going to CSM for about 10 years now. Yeah, 10 years straight. And I think my big takeaways at a big level are to connect with someone on social media that you meet, talk to some of the speakers that you go to their talks. I think that really encourages the speakers. I find that to be so gratifying when people come up afterwards. Get people's actual contact info and take a nugget of information or insight away from every talk. Even if it's a talk you disagree with or a talk that you didn't think was that good, write down the nugget. Well, at this point, I feel like you have all your work ahead of you. And what I mean by that is you need to act upon that after the conference. I think that's really important. And what you should do is, for all the things you just did, you need to act upon them. So with those nuggets of wisdom, connect them to what you know, but also use them to challenge what you know to grow your knowledge base. As far as talking with the speakers, try to follow up with some speakers. Ask them a question, connect with them. The flip side is, and I think this is the big one, set up a phone conversation within the first month after CSM with at least one person that you met. I have found that to be so beneficial, and it continues the conversation, the excitement, because I think it's really easy to go to a conference. You get what I call the conference high. You get back to work on Monday, and you don't have any actionable things to do. So I think that is highly important, because you can make a lot of great connections with like-minded people, people who challenge you at CSM, and I think that's something that can be extremely valuable. Where this conversation came from is Sandy and I were talking about communication. And Sandy, if you don't know her, is a brilliant therapist in entropy physical therapy out of Chicago. She does a podcast called the Pain, Science, and Sensibility podcast with Corey Blickenstaff. Great podcast, by the way. You should listen to that. But we were talking about communication and debate and dialectics and how these things kind of go off the rails pretty quickly. And one of the things that I've always been very kind of obsessed with is precision in language. And I feel like I've made a lot of mistakes in this regard where I'm using a word maybe differently than someone else, and what this turns into is you can't actually communicate. And I heard this concept from David Krakauer, who is the president of the Santa Fe Institute, which is kind of the most anti-academy institution that I've ever seen. They bring all these disciplines together to try to solve complex problems. So he's the head of complex systems there. And he said communication breaks down because of the concept of m cubed mayhem, m to the power 3 mayhem. And what he said is that there's kind of various levels of language. There's mathematics, mathematical theory, and metaphor. And there's a lot of words that have metaphorical day-to-day meanings that are also used in the scientific literature. And one that I always see is effective, right? So the Webster definition of effective is, does it work? It's kind of a pragmatic, empiricist definition, but the definition within science is a very specific type of research study. And so I think when we're having conversations with people, whether it's over a cup of coffee or at a conference or in a scientific realm, it's really important, I think, to ground ourselves on how we're using words and what type of conversation we're going to have. Is this going to be kind of a colloquial conversation where we're just talking like we would at the pub with no kind of rules, no kind of strict definitions? Or are we having a scientifically grounded conversation where we need to have strict definitions to words. We kind of need to set the table, so to speak. And as we parse through that conversation, Cindy's like, oh, that's a great thing you could just do on Facebook Live every morning. You have a little insight like that or a little thought, you should talk about it. And so that's really what I want this to be. I'm going to try to make it a consistent thing. I don't really have any goals except for just to kind of talk through my thoughts in the morning, whether that's an insight I had, a story, a research article, a rant. I've been known to rant every now and then. And so I'm looking forward on going this journey of having coffee and having a conversation. So it was good to see you, and we'll talk to you soon.